To Easy IELTS. Today we are going to talk about cue cards. What are the strategies to employ during the preparation of the cue cards? So let's start. Before you begin, you should know what the cue cards are. Cue cards are the second part of the IELTS speaking module. In the test, you will have 1 minute to prepare the given cue card, and after that, you are expected to speak for about 2 minutes about the same. There are many questions about the cue card, and we will talk about later. And there are mainly 6 types of cue cards: describe a person, describe a place, describe an event, describe an object, describe your favorites, and describe an activity. Now, what are the strategies? What are the preparation strategies for the cue cards? First, understand the cue card. You should know what is asked to you. What is the main theme? What is the main question about the cue card? Next is you should check the tense, whether it is past, present, or future. Most of the students commit mistake while understanding the tense. For example, sometimes they are asked about a cue card which is based on the past, but they speak in present or future. So that makes the whole cue card wrong. Next is think about a situation. Whenever you receive any cue card, you should think about a situation which you have already experienced or which you have thought to do in the future, or anything which is relatable or which can be related to the cue card. If it happens, then it is easy for you to speak about it. Next, write your story. You should write the whole cue card story. You should write the every detail in your notebook so that you will have one clear picture in your mind. Next is to check it for the alternate words which you can put to improve your lexical resource banks. If you do this, you can easily improve your vocabulary. Next is you have to record your voice. If you record your voice, you can easily analyze it, and then you can easily improve yourself in the areas where it is needed. Next is preparation strategy. Sorry. You should know the math. What is the cue card math? Every time you will have to speak for about 2 minutes. That equals 120 seconds. What I suggest to my students is the introduction of cue card topic should be there, and it should be of the length 20 to 30 seconds. Just take an example. What I tell to my student is, for example, if there are 4 questions asked in a cue card, and if you have, just for example, 3 ideas per question, then the total number of ideas would be 12, and the total time spent per idea is 10 seconds, if we suppose. So the total number spent on just describing the ideas is 120 seconds, and the result is you get the introduction as a bonus. Next, what are the methods of preparing the cue cards? Mainly there are 3 methods which students use, which teachers describe to their students how they can prepare for the cue cards. So let's talk about it. The first is simple writing method. In this you just write down the questions, and below it you just write down the ideas. This is the most basic type of preparing. Next is the spider web method. This is the most employed or most used method by the teachers, by the students. In this you just write down the theme or write down the question in the center, and then you describe or write down the ideas around it. But there is one mistake which can happen, that your ideas can sometimes cannot be in a serial order, which is not an important part, but it is good if they are in a serial order. Next is the hierarchy method. In this you have just write the questions on the left and you describe your ideas on the right according to the questions. This is the method which I use, which I tell my students to do. It is one of the most easiest one, and With the help of this method, you can easily speak about the questions, you can easily answer the questions in a serial order. Next is what type of questions are usually asked in the cue card. The first type of question is where. In this, you are asked about the location and you can describe its accurate location, ways to reach there, and how far this location is from your house. Next is when. When describes the time. You can describe the time, you can describe the date, you can describe the occasion on when you or when that any particular event happened, when you met any person. So next is how. In this cue card, you have to describe any description or any process or any act. Next is why. Why you liked someone, why that happens, why a person is liked by a lot of people. So these can be questions which can be asked in the cue card, and in this you have to describe your reasons along with the details or along with the stories. Next is with whom. In this it is asked about the person with whom you went to the any place, or with whom you went to any particular activity, with whom you um, went to some place or participated in any kind of sports. So in this you can describe about a person, a sibling, cousin, neighbor, etc., how you know or where you met, and about their personality. Remember, there are a lot of other variables too on which you can describe in your cue card. Let's take an example question. Describe a good law in your country. What is the law? How you came to know about it? Whom does it affect? And why is it good? It's an example question which are usually asked in the IELTS exam. So next is planning. This is just a simple idea which is taken by myself, and it is just an example. For the law in my country, there is the very huge law, we can say a good law, is about the banning of plastic bags. So I can describe about when it was passed, who passed it, the government, and for the first question, when it was passed, I can describe about the time, the date, the years, who passed it, the government, the officials, why it was passed, just one reason, because it harms the environment. Next question, how you know about it. So I can say that the news, the time when it was passed, it came in the news. And next I can also say about the newspaper, that the government wrote an article about it that plastic bags are banned now. And from the shopkeepers in my area, that they told me that plastic bags are banned because for the preservation of the environment. Next is whom does it affect. The common people are the common people are the ones who were affected by this law. And why? Because plastic bags are widespread in the whole country, and these are used by vegetable vendors and shopkeepers, supermarkets. Just to ban them, this law came into power. Why is it good? The last question. Because plastic harms the environment. Air pollution is caused when the plastic is burned, and soil pollution happens when it is dumped in the landfills. It deteriorates the health of people, and by banning the plastic bags, we can easily save the environment to much extent. So these are the ideas which I can describe in my cue card. Now, what is the math of this cue card? There are total 13 ideas in this cue card, and the time spent on each idea, just say it is 8 seconds, and the total time spent on ideas is about 104 seconds. Next is time left. How much time is left? The total you have to speak about 120 seconds, and you have already covered 104 seconds just for describing the ideas. Now you are left with just 16 seconds, and this is the time in which your introduction steps in. You should spend at least 16 seconds on the introduction and then start describing your ideas. Do the math of each cue card. This is my strategy. I always do the math for every cue card. I make the ideas according to that. Start writing all the ideas in your notebook according to the hierarchy method. Why? Because it is the most easiest one, and by that method you can easily speak your answers in particular order. And always start making the sample cue cards or the write down the cue cards with your own stories, the stories which you have experienced, your experience. Write down your experience actually, because it is one of the most easiest way to describe it, and you can stand out from the whole crowd. So if you like this video, subscribe to our channel and also like our FB page which is written. Thank you.